And I kind of paraphrased it. We gave our primary education to the missionaries, the higher education to the Marxists, and the entertainment to the Muslims. What do we have? Nothing at all. 400 years ago, 500 years ago, Columbus was not looking for America. Columbus was looking for India. I wonder why. And I very specifically, very clearly, I said, we need to declare India, you need to declare India a Hindu Rashtra, because India is the final and last land for Hindu. Two, the whatever land you had in 1947 has been captured by foreign faiths, and it's been going on constantly, consistently, without an apology. You guys need to make sure the country, the land, the people, the heritage, the traditions, the civilization is protected.
Namaste and welcome to Sangam Talks, a platform aimed at reclaiming the Indic civilizational narrative. Today, Purnima Nath ji is joining us from US. She is the founder, president, and chairwoman of Spindle India. She contested the US congressional seat from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, founded I Exit, and launched Hindus and Trump initiative. She is an alumni of Kellogg School of Management and has decades of corporate management experience. She speaks and writes on geopolitics, foreign affairs, counterterrorism, immigration, and national security. Welcome to Sangam Talks, Purnima ji.
Thank you so much. Namaste. I appreciate that.
Tell us more about your childhood, how you moved to US and settling down there.
Well, I came from a very small town, not a town, it's a village, in a northeastern state called Tripura. We are born and brought up over there. There was no dream of America, or one day we'll go to America. Didn't even know that beyond our little place that we were born and brought up, maybe the best thing that we knew is Kolkata. At times we would go there, but a couple of places we visited was in the south, Madurai, when I was a little child, and just a bit of Delhi area and all stuff. But it wasn't. We were not ambitious at all. We didn't even know that one day I'll have an opportunity to come to America. But after my 12th, I went to South to do my engineering, and from there got a job. Actually came to America through a job. And at that time also, I didn't realize that, I would settle down over here. People were actually quite competitive in terms of coming to America and getting an opportunity for abroad. And they would really try super hard, and I didn't even, it wasn't something that I was dying for. It was probably fated, obviously, and I got an opportunity, came over here, and I ended up staying. Coming into politics was also really, really accidental, because when I saw President Trump actually announced his candidacy, I saw a vicious attack from media uh, against President Trump. I didn't understand. In fact, I'll tell you something that I probably didn't even disclose until now. Back in 2007 ish, when in one of the corporate that I was part of, there was a course I was taking, taking part within that course, and there was it was a leadership course, and then there was a assessment and writings that you needed to do about a leader that you are inspired. I'm talking about somewhere around 2007. I actually wrote a piece on Donald Trump. And when I wrote the piece, and literally everybody was in that in the course, they were taking part. they actually went off on me. Was how can you like somebody who's like a television apprentice guy? He keeps on firing people. I'm like, he's straightforward. This is some leadership that you don't necessarily see. So I remember that paper that I wrote at that time. I know what kind of reaction I got, but obviously it was much, much before then he even said he was going to run for politics. But when coming, fast forward 2015, when he said he was going to run for politics, it was something odd about this attack that I saw. And then I was like, okay, it doesn't make any sense. What is happening in this country? Let me go and see. I started digging, and then I started finding out that his policy, I was looking for analyze, and I was looking actually to in a research mode. His policies, is it good? Is it bad? Who is it helping? Who is not helping? And things like that. And I was actually taking his side and started defending because his policies were good for the country. His policies were good for the regular people. I was like, why are people getting so agitated about him? I don't understand. And then he was also obviously at that time billionaire. He didn't need to be a politician. He was not here to make, fill his own pockets. So this was all making sense to me, but I just didn't understand why people didn't like him. He was so rude. He his delivery was not correct for the people, and that's how people were assessing him. But then through that journey, I started looking at my experiences, whatever I saw in the past in India when I was growing up. And in fact, the place that I am from, it was ruled by Marxists. And then I didn't realize, I didn't understand at that point of time to why do we see so much violence? Why do we see so much of crimes? Why do why my parents were so literally on the feet, basically, trying to keep his children safe from crimes and etc. like that. I had no idea. I mean, I just knew the thought about it, and it's okay. It's a parental thing. Parents wants to keep their child so safe and all stuff. I had no idea that the politics, the crimes, the corruption is so connected, and they kept us away from politics. They kept us away from getting even understanding even a little bit of diversion from discussion into politics. So we were shielded from politics because politics is filthy, politics is bad, politics isn't something that intelligent people get involved in and things like that. That's what my childhood was. And even when I came over here, I had no connection to politics. In politics, I came into politics because of Donald Trump. I came into in a position of researching because of Donald Trump. I came into a position to gather some courage to even run for political position as a immigrant in this country because of Donald Trump. I think I find him immensely courageous, and he gives me inspiration to do something that hasn't been done before. Unless I got involved and I started talking, started defending, started arguing, started debating about these issues, I had no idea that this was a completely different world that I was not exposed to. And when I started defending Donald Trump, I started getting attacked myself. And they started calling me Nazi, fascist, racist, Islamophobe, and etc. just because I supported him. And also, they started attacking my nonprofit, the nonprofit that we founded, and we've been working on it. And it's sort of like, okay, we'll shut you down. I'm like, okay, bring it on. Let's see what you can do. But this intimidation really doesn't work for me. But it actually emboldened me a little bit more to go look into the situation as to why are they threatening me? What is it that I have done or said that is so threatening for these people? So that's where basically, in short, I've moved from engineering to management consulting to nonprofit into politics, and that this has been my career experience. But it has been fascinating so far. The journey has been fascinating.
Since you mentioned it, I do remember the show, The Apprentice, I guess it was named, where Donald Trump used to be there and he used to take the final call on who stays and who goes. And I was a fan of the show, to be truthful. So, since you are in US, you talk about the issues that Hindus are facing there. So there has recently been a lot of talk about wokeism, gender identity, and the students, its impact on them. So, what are your views on it?
See, in United States, what happened is they targeted the education system primarily, not just the primary education system, but also high schools and also obviously the college higher studies educations, right? Institutions. What they did was basically they started imposing a agenda called CRT, critical race theory. In India, when I was looking at it, I found it obviously, I think somebody else spoken about it as well. I started finding similarities about it. Just the same way caste was imposed in India to divide and conquer, the race fault line was used in America. So basically, this happened. For quite some time, but it was obviously done after Obama came, Barack Hussein Obama, around 2008. It was very drastic change, and a war started breaking out between black and white, and it was all about anti-nationals, white supremacies and etc. So it's basically white people are the enemies and the rest of the colored people are the victims. This is the narrative. It's the same exact narrative of what Brahmin of India's are. In India are basically these are oppressors, racist, and landowners, and fascist people. Basically, rest of the folks are victims. That's the narrative they pushed in India, and they were successful because the way they did it, it wasn't just race theory they started to push, but the gender transition they started doing. They started infiltrating the libraries of middle school and primary education school, basically with unspeakable topics, books, especially speaking about pornography. But so these books, if you look at it or look at their what is the content, it's very explicit sexual content, and these books were being flooded in every school district in United States to middle schools. Basically, it is available for 11, 12 years old. Sexual education, sodomy, pedophilia, through explicit wordings, through explicit illustration and depiction and pictures. So this was happening, and on top of it, there was a massive war that started. Basically, the gender transition, transgenderism that they were trying to impose, it was so how do I describe that? It was so dangerously sneaky, basically. The entire ecosystem of the education system was trying to target the children and saying that if they feel they're transgender, the schools were basically acting as a safe place for those children, and there is no parental right. The parents don't even need to know that, and that's how they were trying to hide that information from the parents. Basically, let's say a child says that I'm bunny today, and they're just going to do some hormonal therapy through the psychologies and all things like that. And then the parents are not going to be in the discussion. They're going to be kept completely in dark. So can you imagine, as an Indian parent, let's say you are dropping your child in public school in America somewhere, and this is what they're learning, basically sexual education, pedophilia, sodomy, and they're also free to change their gender and not even tell their parents. Basically, it's a way of stealing the children. Literally, state is taking the children away and uh, creating an environment where you are actually making the next generation completely psychos, mentally ill. That was happening. And then on top of it, it's not just the pedophilia and the sex education that was happening, or the gender changes and dysphorias that is happening, but also on top of it, when we come to the Hinduism and all stuff like that. If you look at textbooks in America, it's all Hinduism all is all about caste. We get targeted by caste, kari, cow, kali and sati. these are the main way they target us. Either Hinduism is the worst religion of the entire world. We don't even have right to live. That's what they're teaching in middle school about Hinduism. And this is just beyond my own understanding. I'm like, where did I come? What did I do? Why did I not stay in India? And how what was my purpose for me to even come over here? When I started looking into and understanding what was happening, I couldn't just watch by, as a sideline bystander. I'm like, I have to do something about it. In fact, in the Republican conservative women were the main four of folks that actually raised voice because of this education system and the CRTs and that was happening in the school system. And Muslim people. And Muslim people, because you know that they were not into transgenderism or the homosexuality and all stuff like that. So those, even if you look at some news articles, you'll see Muslims of Michigan, they were the loudest community against this wokeism that is going on in America. And that is one of the main reason these Muslim communities actually voted for Donald Trump or a Republican Party, because conservatives were aligned with non-Marxism. And when we talk about non-Marxism, specifically not all, but these certain specific issues that actually entice the Muslim community. So transgenderism or the gender dysphoria that we see in America today, it was very deliberate. Literally, doctors were given order to do whatever they wanted to do. You will see some videos. It's a heartbreaking. People are taking away, their flesh from the thighs and creating the genitalia, the organs of genitalia. It's so heartbreaking. They somewhere along the line they understood, they were told that it's okay to come out that you are in a wrong body. I mean, in from a Hinduism perspective, what I've understood later on is that obviously we come from India. We have seen transgenders. They are always there in our society, from millions of years, and they are always 0.5% of the society. Nobody's touching them, nobody's bashing them. They're part of our society, they're there. But making it as a mainstream and also imposing their ideology, their lifestyle to the normal 99.99%, and imposing that their ideology being accepted and has to be, that's how the society has to move, is something that is sort of like a conversion act. Like, see how Islam or Christianity tells you that their religion, either the truest religion or the last and final religion, everybody else doesn't matter. So to me it was almost like a conversion. I mean, like, this is intimidation, this is terror, this is horror. So transgenderism, gender dysphoria is basically something that I feel like, India is inspired in everything that happens in America, automatically gets picked up by Netflix and Bollywoodias, and then inspires the new generation, the young minds of India somehow. And anything happens over here, I see it over there almost immediately. For instance, my body, my choice, that abortion rights that was happening, big political issue here in United States for the last few years. I saw recently Alia Bhatt writing "My Body, My Choice." I'm like, come on. I mean, it's America influences Indian celebrities so much so that anything that happens over here overnight, it is inspiring there. So sometime I feel like that, before importing something, you have to analyze whether it is right for your culture or your country or your heritage at all. I mean, abortion issue, they have made it as a primary political issue here, because the rule was moved from Supreme Court to the states. They haven't banned, not every state has banned it, but the fact that there was discussion that was going on to take responsibilities, and even if you're doing it, why you take availing the state or federal dollars for it? Because there are organization and lobbying organization, they're getting millions of dollars from feds and as well as from the state in order to push their agenda. Now this is political issue. Now, without knowing all the nitty-gritty details and all, this has been basically literally being replicated in India, in Indian society. I can't understand why is that okay with India. I mean, this India, the country has a heritage that is unmatched. This country brings heritage of at least 14,000 year old, if not more. Obviously, we find every single day we find evidence that is even 40,000 year old or whatever. But point of the fact is that even if it is not 14,000, it is 5,000 at least, we know for a fact. In that case, this country brings the heritage, the history, the tradition, the culture. It's unmatched to any Western countries. We don't have here. United States doesn't have the history beyond 250 years. So how do you compare that with a country like India, and whose civilizational Vedic culture has been traveling for 5,000 years plus? So anything that you import, you have to really look at how it's going to impact your culture. You know, America, but this political journey here has been quite spiritual for me as well, because I see how they want to defend their country, how Americans have united to defend their border, how Americans have united to defend their culture, whatever it is. I'm not saying it's good, bad, and ugly, but I've seen the grassroots effort to save the culture, save the country from invaders, from infiltrators, from illegal immigrants, from the Marxist entities and things like that. They are very clear about it. And I think it's inspiring. If everything can be replicated, replicate this also, I would say, because this is something that Indian Hindus need to understand. You know, sometimes when I talk about these issues, whether it's a Bangladeshi Hindu a genocide issue, or the Pakistani Hindu genocide issue, or the Indian Hindus, that atrocities that is being infested on them today, it's at times in Hindus don't even know this is happening. Or if even if they know, they are not willing to say they know. Or even if they are not willing to say, they're actually denying the fact this is happening. They're saying that it is political. They're actually saying that some entities are lying about it. In fact, I'll tell you my interaction 2 days ago. I ran into some random Bangladeshi in a shop, and he was very interested to know where I was, and told him where I was and etc., where I came from and etc. He's from Bangladesh, Chattogram. I'm from Tripura. He was interested in talking, and except basically they were starting to talk about that they don't like Modi, they don't like Trump. I said, listen, I'm from the other side of the aisle. You might not like me at all. And then the discussion went haywire, because I told him, why don't you save the Bangladeshi Hindus? And he literally denied, saying it's not happening. Modi is lying, the Indian media is lying. And all the information that is in my hand today, the villages are being burned, the women are being picked up, raped, and literally the Hindu households are being ransacked completely. They don't care. They're saying it's not happening. And I told specifically from a political standpoint, listen, Trump is now over here, perhaps Hasina is going to be back. Or he's like, I can guarantee Hasina cannot be back. They're so clear about their agenda. They don't even care whether Hindus are being massacred over there. They know exactly what they want. Why can't you Hindus globally have that kind of mindset? You have one land at this point of time, one land, which is also being targeted from various different entities, trying to take the lands, trying to convert people, and engaged in division agenda. And also, Tukre Tukre gang are constantly trying to inspire young minds to tell that India is not good. India is not good. But that's something that I find quite interesting, because it's sort of like, Stockholm syndrome that we say. The invaders have become their saviors. for somehow. I don't understand how, but this is what is happening in India. I would say that at this point of time, as a Hindu, I think it's the Hindus of India's responsibility that you save the land for the Hindus, because something happens to the Hindus of America or UK or Australia or Canada, they're not going to Bangladesh, they are not going to Pakistan, they will go to India, whether they are the citizen of that country or not. Which other land will we go to? We have a lot of work to do in Western countries in order to communicate what our religion is, because most of the people think that our religion is so wild, so primitive, uncultured we are, that they don't understand how rich the heritage is. And I think it is our responsibility in a way as a Hindu to communicate. And I don't know, how come in 70, 80 years, almost 80 years, we haven't communicated this. So we are still in that situation, that we are not cultured. We are not, we were some people that were cow worshippers and cow urine drinkers and filthy, uncultured people. And every single time we talk about it, these are some of the labels that we hear. I personally also heard all this, and we constantly hear that we have to go back to our own land, our filthy land, which is India. So I say proudly that, 400 years ago, 500 years ago, Columbus was not looking for America. Columbus was looking for India. I wonder why.
So you've touched so many different topics all in one go. We've talked about the problems that are there, the immigrants are facing, the Indians in India, they are also probably trying not to see these problems. So let's talk about the solutions. What are the things that you would recommend people in US should do, like the immigrants in US, and also the Indians? How can we support all the Hindu community that is living across the globe? Because end of the day, you're right. If anything happens in any other country, India is the only place that Hindus can come back to.
Initially we had 80% of Hindus. And last I've checked in all, according to my analysis, you have 22% Muslims today, and you have 10% average Christians today. So if you do the math, you don't have 70% Hindus also. Let's say you have 60 to 64% Hindus, still a majority. And with 20%, 22% Muslims and 10% Christians and 6% Buddhists, Jains, and etc., you're still a majority in that country at this point of time. In 1947, today's India was created. It was created based on what? Religion. So in Pakistan's West and East Pakistan, land was given from India to create Sharia lands. No problem. So India should have become a Hindu land. It didn't. It became a secular land. My urge to India is remove secular and socialist words from constitution, which were actually not part of original constitution anyway. It was forcefully added in the middle of the night somewhere by elites with no discussion, no conversation, no understanding what was happening, and they imposed this on the people of India. I would say this final land for us, for global Hindus. So save what we have. You have to come out of your wonderful comfort zone today to fight and say, this is the current situation. You are losing your land too, even in your, independent India, so-called independent India. So what? In 20 years, you think Hindus are going to own anything? If you say the first landowner is government of India, who runs government of India? Who ran government of India until now? Was it Hindu who ran it? There is a saying, I don't know who came up with it, but it stuck in my mind and I kind of paraphrased it. We gave our primary education to the missionaries, the higher education to the Marxists, and the entertainment to the Muslims. What do we have? Nothing at all. So starting from that should be the starting point. India is the starting point. And for Hindus especially, Islam and Christianity are foreign religion. We Hindus are about 1% in America. We're not demanding we become 10%. We're not demanding we become 22% over here. If at all we grow, we are probably going to grow to 2 to 3% in 20, 30 years. That's our growth rate, regardless of whichever country we are in, one child or two child. We don't have population growth, but the other communities do. So even if you try to save the land, you can't save the land because the population growth isn't going to help you. So UCC obviously is something that I hear constantly. They are going to oppose, obviously. That has to happen. That universal civil code has to come to India. Otherwise, you can't save Hindus. And you have to reclaim literally every single temples that were taken away from you. And I can't understand sitting in America today, 1947, the land was given to Hindus. How does a foreign religion or faith actually own that much of land? Today Waqf board owns more than bigger the size than Pakistan land in India, in a different parts of course. I constantly see there is breaking the agenda in northwest, northeast, southern side. They're always constantly coming up with some idea, saying either it's a religion line, whether it's language line, whether it's some other idea. Even Manipur, Mizoram, you saw the recent conversation from Mizoram's CM in United States. They actually communicated that he doesn't respect India, the Indian sovereignty. This is travesty. This is a you should consider it as a sedition. I don't know why not. And this is something that when you have your leaders coming out of the country and communicate to United States saying that, the Hindus are Hindutvas and they are extremists, they're terrorists and etc., that actually creates bad reputation about us also, because we are not, they haven't seen us that way, but they have created a idea about us. That's how we are being looked at in foreign countries. We are uncultured. We don't know what we are doing, basically. So there's obviously that's the start. India is the start. I often say, the Christians have the Vatican, the Muslims have the Makkah, but Hindus have what? The Indian land. The entire land is our holy land, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari. Every single portion is our holy land. If you go to east in the Kamakhya Mandir, where am I going to get Kamakhya Mandir anywhere else? If you go to south in the Meenakshi Amman temple, where am I going to get the Meenakshi Amman temple somewhere else? If you go to the north Vaishno Devi, where am I going to get that elsewhere? So this is our land, right? It's not just one particular section, or the Ram temple or Krishna temple or Mahadev's temple or so, but the entire land, I look at it as a holy land. Everywhere is kan mein baithe hue hamare god wahan pe. So I feel like that's where it needs to start. We are very minuscule everywhere else. I was born in India. I find a massive connection with India. With my non-profit work also, I got super connected with Indic ideologies, Vedic ideologies, and our history and culture. But not everybody is into that. So we won't be able to literally make sure that everybody understands what the heritage is. So the next generation who's actually born over here, they're literally going to say, okay, we have nothing to do with India. We get it. But if we have that connecting thread like Hinduism, the Vedic ideologies and etc., that's the only way they can connect with India. And so if there is anybody who can fix, if there's anybody who can do anything at this point of time, is you. is Indian Hindus. And unfortunately, that's not what's happening. Here and there, I see good things happening, but it's not in a way that I have seen in America with the grassroots movement with President Trump. They are very clear in terms of the border, the saving the culture, saving the country's the essence of the country. For 250 years, this country is the oldest democracy of the world, and it actually dictates all the countries in the world, and it is a superpower today. But India is not there yet from economic standpoint or social standpoint. Yes, it is doing well. India is certainly sitting in a sweet spot in terms of population, in terms of youth, in terms of technology, in terms of language, in terms of the consumer market and things like that. But India is not there yet from an economic standpoint or the power structure standpoint. We were still at 4 trillion, about to be 4 trillion, from an economic standpoint. So it's much, a lot of work needs to be done over there. But from a standpoint of heritage, that's the only land I see which has massively unmatched history at this point of time. Everywhere you go and dig, you will find something that is historic. You will find something that is you can't find anywhere else. If you go, we go dig everywhere, we find shivling in Turkey, shivling in Indonesia, Japan and things like that. We're finding so much similarities between different cultures, ancient cultures like Japan and India. Like you have the same Vinayak and all in Japan with our Ganesh, Lord Ganesh. So things like that, I think people need to understand, people need to know. Now, people like us, we can only do so much. We are in a foreign land ourselves, and we are fighting for our own identity. You saw recently what happened to the Leicester riots that has happened against the Hindus. Yeah, they couldn't save themselves. Entire narrative was against them, and they had to literally run away from their home with their stuff. And then now the reports are coming that they're doing investigation and found out that all those drama, all those agenda, they were, Majid, whatever his name is, Majid Freeman, I suppose. They were actually made up. They were made up, but they did their own job, isn't it? So why are we, our community, so weak that we can't actually fight to defend? And all of our deities have ashras in their hand, all of them. Durga, Kali, Bhagwan Ram, Krishna, Hanuman, everyone has some ashra in them. We were taught to be non-violent. I have nothing against non-violence. I can't even kill a machar. I have problems. But the point I'm trying to say is if somebody is coming to, harm you, can't we just prepare ourselves to defend? That capability has gone for 70, 78 years. We have lost our capability. We have to now inspire the newest generation and tell them, listen, there is no other country in the entire world like India. I've seen enough. I've seen enough in Europe. I've seen enough here. I've traveled enough to gather that kind of knowledge and say that I've seen enough. But at the end of the day, I'm not saying just take my word, but it is true. There's no other country in the entire world that actually survived Islamic invasion and Christian atrocities and the persecution. We're the only one who survived, and I take pride in my heritage. I don't know what they had to go through, what kind of atrocities they had to go through, the horror, the terror of it. But the simple fact that we still are alive and able to talk about it is our only pride at this point of time. Let's take it forward and make sure that Indian Hindu temples are freed from the government clutches. Our swastika is freed from the Western translation project. Let's make sure when the madrasas and convents were getting developed in India, gurukuls were taken away. There is no gurukul. I didn't even know the name of a gurukul at that point of time. I knew a lot of English speaking people, the rich people were going to English medium. I knew that, but we didn't know anything about this. So now we know a lot more. We want to save what we have. We want to reclaim what we have. But where is a 200-year-old or 1,000-year-old temple over here? None at all. So I think that as an Indian born American, not as a politician, I would say, as a just simple Hindu, I would say that it's high time we actually take into consideration that our history is much, much, much richer than they actually portrayed. So let's communicate that through different channels. Let's communicate about our heroes. Let's communicate how they survived and how how India even survived until now with the 64% 65% Hindus over there. It's incredible to me. Today, when I used to go to door knocking over here as a politician asking for votes, sometimes I would run into conservatives, right? And they'll be okay with me as a conservative because I am aligned politically in those lines, policies wise. But as soon as they know that I'm different, I'm a Hindu, they will be like, Embrace Jesus." And I have to get into that kind of conversation saying, why do I have to embrace anybody else when I have my own gurus? Oh, he's the only one. I'm like, listen, if that has to happen for me personally from a spiritual journey perspective, it will happen. Nobody has to tell me that. But I have my guru, I have my religion, I have my faith, I have my traditions. I'm not going to just leave everything to embrace or to be accepted in a way. So that kind of conversation used to happen too. So politically it becomes even more difficult because before now you haven't seen any Hindu came as a Hindu and running as a Hindu. In America, Bobby Jindal, Nikki Haley, they had to convert in the Christianity to be accepted. Now, Vivek Ramaswamy is the only one who actually proudly said he is a Hindu. That too, that came out when there was a conversation happening in the religious perspective, a church driven conversation. I suppose they were talking about how are you going to run this country as Hindu? That this question itself was so indignifying to me. If somebody asked me this question, I would be first asking, why are you even asking this question? We never asked you how, as a Christian, you're going to run. In India, you have Christian CMs in the south, in the north, west, in northeast. Nobody asked them how, as a Christian, they're running the state, Hindu majority state, right? Nobody did. But this is happening in United States. And so when we talk about the secularism, secularism actually doesn't exist. The entire the entities and all entities, the nexus that talk about secularism, they actually don't follow secularism themselves. So to me, I think this entire game of secularism, socialism is such a nasty game that has been imposed on the Hindus, actually harmed the Hindu ideology and harmed the country. Today, you're constantly decreasing, and you don't have pride on the heritage that we have and our heroes that we had. We learned more about Akbar's and Aurangzeb than we learned about Rana Pratap and the or Gupta industry. Yeah, we have in Rutgers University, infamous professor or lecturer, I don't know what she is, Audrey Trushke, quite infamous in our community. She goes and talks about Aurangzeb, and then she mentioned about the Gupta period, saying that Guptas were not important enough. That's the period that we had number zero come out. Sushruta was in the period, in that same period. The surgeries that happened during that time. She said it was not good enough. It is not her fault because it is our fault. It is Hindu community of India that we have given the reign of our education to foreigners, entertainment to foreigners. The our schools, our people like to go to English medium because that's happening stuff, right? I come from a village. I didn't get to go to an English medium. Trust me, at that point of time, I would see rich people would go to English medium. We didn't even have an opportunity like that. But now that I come back in all this, after all these years, I think everything that happens is for good. And actually, there is no coincidences in life. And I come from a village. I come from a regular regional language curriculum perspective. I didn't even know how to say English. I didn't even know how to speak in English. until I went to engineering. The first few years was difficult, I must say that. But the point I'm trying to say is that would I have become a better person if I had gone to English medium? Or I have turned out to be exactly where I'm supposed to be, or my thought process is aligned with where God wanted me to be. So I personally think that there's too much of hypes that goes on in India at this point of time. You have to pay attention, and if when we're talking about Catholic churches owning 17.29 lakh crore of land, most of them are tied into churches, schools, universities, hospitals. So, and they come across as a social work. They come across as they're actually helping Indian society. What are we doing? What are you doing? Where is the hospital next to the temple? Where is the school next to the temple?
You're so
So
right, ma'am. So, on a lighter note, I would just say that everything that comes from the West is lauded in India. So, hopefully, everything that you have also said will receive the same reception. So, if anybody has any questions, we would like to have those questions.
Yeah, hi, Purnima ji. Well, I was thinking about that thing that, take apart the Judeo-Christian dynamics, but still the Jews in America, they hold much power, both politically and financially. So, but they are very patriotic. I mean, that's my assumption. They're patriotic. They're patriot Americans, but they still think about their homeland. That is, they're not all of them are Zionist, but they think about the Israel, the benefits about what happening in Israel and all. So Indian diaspora is also getting financial powers, maybe much of political power. Are they thinking about anything? They are also patriots, as you explained. Patriot, they have to be, and that's in our nature. So, do we have any ecosystem of our own that Indian diaspora from the West, particularly in US, where the narratives are flowing down? So, are they doing anything about that?
The Indian community has to come together and also support the Indian people, Hindu cause, and very little, very few, I would say, that actually understand what the Indian Hindu lobby can do. These people are very patriotic from an American standpoint, as you said, but at the same time, uh, sometimes they don't understand what's happening in India also affects us. For if somebody says that Hindus are killing Christians and Muslims in India, if I meet somewhere here, that's exactly what they're going to tell me. And I've heard that before. You guys are, India is killing Christians and Muslims. I'm like, who told you that? Who told you that? But their media is telling them, their churches are telling them. I got a message right before election by somebody saying that, hey, this church I believe it was in Andhra Pradesh, they're being haunted by Hindus. I'm like, could you please send me what church, who is being haunted? No response. But that happened. So this kind of narrative that is being pushed from either Indian channel or American channel impacts our what do you call image also here. But to answer your question, Jews have lobbies, and they've been doing it for generations at this point of time. They know what their goals are, obviously. They're very connected to Jew land. They're very connected to Israel and making sure that Israel gets all kinds of benefits and etc. like that. Interesting thing about Jews are they're very only 0.2% of world population. Hindus are 15% actually. We are more in number, but yet we can't figure it out exactly how to do things. When you asked about if there's a lobby over here, Hindu lobby, no. Is it something going to happen? probably soon. I mean, there are people like us, we understand the need for our security and safety of our people. Why? Because you see, the recent targets of Hindus are not Bangladesh. The Canadian Hindus are the target. So who's to say that the Hindus of America is not going to be targeted? I mean, our consul general's office was targeted in California, and Khalistani has been quite active in terms of targeting, sending videos, making videos with massive slurs against Hindus and Hindu deities. And then California was one of the first state that was about to pass caste on Hindus. And whether it's Seattle or St. Paul or Santa Clara, they all passed anti-CA resolution against Hindus and India. The idea is that Hindus are Hindutva. Anybody who speaks for Hindu cause is Hindutva. Hindutva is basically terrorism. Hindutva is basically terror and horror, and they're killing Christians and Muslims. So this is the narrative they have done well. We haven't changed that narrative as of yet. But some people like us who are literally a little bit more vocal and talking about certain issues, we are trying to communicate that. For instance, like if somebody says that Bangladesh genocide is not happening, Hindu genocide is not happening, we show them this is the current information. I mean, a few years ago, this would not be possible. Thank platforms like Twitter, because this is the only platform I think we even have at this point of time where we can at least real time show this is happening. Every single day we see some horrific instances coming from Bangladesh, where some kids are being hung from the tree. Some girls have been picked up, they can't find them. Some girls have been converted. Just horror story constant. I mean, it's not just coming from Bangladesh, it's coming from India too, different parts of India. So to me, have we done anything over here? We are only 1%, we are not much, and most of the people didn't know much about our religion. They didn't know what we are, and we've been targeted massively. Even now, this caste bill, there's SB 403, I suppose, that just happened in a few months ago. It was vetoed by California governor at the last moment. The fact that it actually went to the governor and through all the legislative channel is what is concerning to me. So Hindus are going to get targeted, and because of all this that's happening in America or in Canada, I think Hindu people are waking up a little bit. And that's one of the reason actually, some portion of Hindu community voted for Donald Trump. Now, before we started, you asked me whether everybody voted for Indian American voted for Trump or not. No, it was majority is actually Democrat voter. So this shift has happened just recently because of all these disappointing policies and politics that Democrats had played. So some Hindus have understood, and we have played some massive roles in terms of communicating to the Hindus, saying that Democrat Party is not good for us, and they're anti-family, they're anti-country, they're anti-nation. They're trying to dismantle everything. They're also targeting us as a community. So they're obviously not good for anybody. They're also not good for Jews. They're not good for Christians. They're targeting everybody. And if you saw Donald Trump's tweet on Bangladesh, you saw specifically one thing he mentioned in that tweet. He said that he's going to protect Hindus of Bangladesh, and also wherever the Hindus are at. And he was also mentioned specifically Democrat Party left the Hindu community, and that is true. They have gone so far left, and they're basically Islamo-Marxist. They don't care about Hindus. They're very clear about as to what they want, and we saw that in their actions. But most of the Hindus didn't actually come to the right side or the Republican Party or the Donald Trump camp because they were afraid. And if they were in a mostly Democrat cities or counties or state, they don't even have an option. So those are something that played out for us. But the way I see, is that Hindu community of America, Hindu community of Canada, they are waking up. Recently the attack that has happened in the temple in Canada, that woke up a lot of people as well. I mean, who is to say that here Hindu temples are not going to get attacked? Bab's temple in New Jersey was attacked right after Joe Biden came into power. Within few months, they were raided. And similarly, I think there's a narrative that is going on. Hindus, we as a Hindu, obviously, we are different religion. We don't belong here. So somewhere along the line, we have to do a better job in terms of communicating who we are. And today, I mean, I don't know if you have noticed what I'm saying. I'm actually specifically telling Indian people, young Indian people, not to come to America and Canada. I'm telling them, please do not come over here, because there is a rising anti-Hindu sentiments that we have seen, and this is constantly happening. We don't see specifically what kind of solution we're going to come up with, but people like us, somebody who's actually a bit more activist and bring out the communication, we're continuing to do that. But how is it going to come up with a solid action? We don't know yet. So I tell them that if you are considering America, Canada as your home or potential home, please do not come. Stay in India. That's where things are going to change. You build your product, build your services, build your roads, build your homes, build your applications over there, build your companies over there, build your universities over there, hospitals over there. You have ample of opportunities. The 2-3 days ago, some report came that India is going to see massive amount of issues in terms of unemployment. The youths are coming out of the colleges; they're not going to have the jobs that's required. But I would say, I mean, why would you have to come over here? We are not going to give you jobs either. There are people over here who doesn't have jobs, and stay in India, actually build that country, because there is a rising anti-Hindu sentiment in the West. And we don't have a strong lobby at all. We know some congressmen, some senators, some they might hear from us, but they might not do anything about it. So there is a long way to go. Jews are very strong. They have been working at it for years now. And without America, Israel would not have been existing also. That's a fact. So for us, I think we have a long, many years to go to build that relationship, to make sure that we are just not directly attacked just because of our color or just because of our different faith.
It was a wonderful way you presented things and made the ideas so clear to us. I, from what I could judge from the TV interviews and speaking with some of my friends, in the Indian diaspora there in America, the business community, like the Gujaratis and all, they kind of voted for, they were for Trump. But the educated, like highly educated masses, the academia and the service class people, they were more for Democrats. That's the idea I got. But what I see is they keep on sharing Washington Post and New York Times articles with us, telling us, see, yeah, this is what is happening in India, which is a wrong narrative. So, any of the Indian diaspora people, like in journalism, or are they going to counter India? Some journalists are trying to counter those narratives, but they're sitting in America. Is there a group or random people who are trying to counter those narratives?
So that's a very good question. Actually, we try, but we don't have that network, the network that Jews have. For instance, you will see a lot of Twitter handles who actually specifically they're targeted to counter Jew, any anti-Semite or anti-Jew agenda. We don't have that, because if you look at it, our organizations are not funded. Even if you ask for donation, how many people would pay donation to afford for you to find somebody to do research and fund for constant watch on the social media and etc. So we don't have that kind of capacity and capability at this point of time. Even though when you talked about, let's say, business community has voted for Trump, that's true, because Trump is good for business. I mean, the business community is the one who's actually creating jobs, and their contribution to the GDP is high. One single person, how much taxes are they going to pay versus a massive company? I'm not saying there's no tax loopholes, or Jeff Bezos have paid massive amount of taxes. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that a job creator has an opportunity to create jobs, and through that you actually contribute to the GDP. The person who has gotten a job, they will be able to spend in the economy, save also for themselves. So it's a cycle basically. So punishing the job creators is a foolish thing to me, right? So business owners and top CEOs, you will see they have actually voted for Donald Trump. Now, you talked about the folks with literacy background, or maybe from the professors or education academia background. They're very Marxist. They're so embedded into this Islamo-Marxist so-called compassion ideology, which I sometimes call is as a misplaced compassion, because there's no compassion to me. They're basically woke. So there was a conversation trying to figure out what is actually woke. I simplify it saying that woke is opposite to enlightenment. Woke is opposite to awakened. Woke is opposite to the compassion, kindness, and being contributors of the societal betterment of the society. So I kind of say that the woke people are a combination of somebody who's actually trying to push the society into a condition where it actually breaks down, and they are going to come up with their own idea. They're literally using those leftist nexus and their communication channels to communicate certain narratives, to build a agenda against certain people. It's not against just Hindus, it's against India. So if you remember, for the last few years, they have been trying to declare India as a CPC, which is country of particular concern. Basically, through human rights issue, they want to rein India's growth. They want to make sure India doesn't India toes their line. That's their agenda. It's whether it's imposing caste on us or anti-CA resolution. I mean, I'll give you an example. It's so pathetic at times. I live in a county which has 1 million people. The city that we are part of has 500,000 people. What is the population of India? 1.5 billion. How does this smallest city with 500,000 people in nobody even knows the name of it in India or so? My city's name I'm talking about, Milwaukee. How do they feel so emboldened to pass a resolution against a sovereign nation, which is India, a law they are amending, which is CAA? They couldn't even say CAA. They don't know how to pronounce it. It's so funny. It's not even, it's funny in a way that yes, they feel emboldened to dictate India. But in a real sense, it's not funny. It's actually quite dangerous. If a city like that can do something like that against India, I literally say, why can't you do it? You do it. Pick a little village in Jharkhand and start passing resolutions against what's happening over United States. Why can't we just do it? Because it's a tit for tat at this point of time. You're literally taking leftist ideology, pushing wrong and false narratives against the Hindus and the country, and shaping the minds of the young people, saying that this country behaves like that. So to me, that's not just against us here, that's against our holy land of India. And that's why I'm very particular about it. Few years ago, I did a conversation with CIS Indus University. And I very specifically, very clearly, I said, we need to declare India, you need to declare India a Hindu Rashtra, because India is the final and last land for Hindu. Two, the whatever land you had in 1947 has been captured by foreign faiths, and it's been going on constantly, consistently without an apology. You guys need to make sure the country, the land, the people, the heritage, the traditions, the civilization is protected. It's not we can't do it from here. We might be able to be supporter in a way, but the onus is actually on you, the Hindus of India. You have to go to different universities, talk to the students and communicate, even not just universities but the middle school too, to talk about what is going on, because in middle school is where they teach about Akbar and Aurangzeb, and that's where we need to get in and discuss about what our real history is. So it's not going to be just in colleges at all. It has to be done in middle school or even earlier. So the pride in India, that was not there before. It only I have seen the shift after Narendra Modi and his contribution to India and India's development and India's it's let's say image on global platform is immense. We're going to be reading about it in history books forever. And obviously you need to make sure that this is taken up in one notch up, and also we bring ideas that we are the way I was telling you about it. Vasco da Gama came early because Columbus was lost, but Columbus could have been actually in India if he was not lost. And then whether it's Vasco da Gama or Columbus or the British or the French and everyone else, they came because of our wealth, they came because of our spices, they came because of our gems and stones, the industries, and our silk and whatnot, the mansions, the temples, the jewels, and etc. And everything we lost, every single thing we lost, yet we stood. Maybe because of the little faith that we had, our ancestors had. And I had no clue about it. The more I learned, the more I feel proud about it. The more I learn a little bit here and there, I feel, my God, what a culture it was. And we survived.
Yes, Purnima, that's right. I have that thought that politicians and the government in whichever country you may say, that they have some political obligations. Like if suddenly Narendra Modi ji decide to make India a Hindu Rashtra, there will be a great retaliation from the opposition parties, for example, Congress. So I think the Hindu community should do something about it, as you said rightly. But the thing is that we don't have any institutional support. Like recently in Bahraich, UP, there was an incident that the procession of Navratra was going on and stone was being pelted from that, who. And that young boy, he retaliated. But next day he found killed, murdered. So nothing happened. So there is no umbrella above us. So people want to retaliate. So there should be a financial support. There should be an institution, and we are thinking about something like that. We are raising a fund, but we will need the help from support from the financially strong Hindus, and who also have the power of the narrative.
You see, the incident you mentioned, I'm familiar with that. The gentleman was killed. I believe it's the same incident where a police IPS officer came and said that the I forget the wording she used, but it was quite interesting in a way that she was actually blaming.
Yes,
The
she was
folks
like, ये तो होना ही था, ऐसे करेंगे तो ये तो होना ही था.
something
So
like that she
if we
mentioned.
do something like that, it will bound to
Right.
happen.
She mentioned it was actually going through a Muslim area. Why would she say that, first of all? She's an IPS officer in India, not in Pakistan or Afghanistan or Bangladesh, right? This is not a Muslim country. What is this? What is this label called Muslim area? I don't get it. I mean, honestly speaking, we have Muslim areas here too. There are some no-go zone over here. If you go to Michigan, you go to New York, you go to some areas over here. There's no-go zones over here. Muslim areas, what is Muslim area? India was not supposed to be Islamic country. India was not built for Islamic country. The land was given to Hindus. So what are these Muslim areas that is coming up now? What are these mazars coming up everywhere? To that IPS officer should have been snubbed right away, which was not done. And I believe there are certain organizations you have. The Bajrang Dal is there. Vishwa Hindu Parishad is there. But what happened was, they have been labeled as a terrorist organizations. Now, Hindus, as this is my understanding of Hindus, were very image conscious. Even in America, they didn't want to, initially, they didn't want to associate with Trump at all, because Trump was he was painted as a modern day Hitler. So Indians, especially Hindus, didn't want to associate with him at all. That's why I had to start the second initiative called Hindus and Trump, specifically bringing those folks that were leaving the Democrat Party, not automatically coming to the Republican Party or Trump. We were communicating to them that, okay, the media is doing their own job. You don't have to go by what media is saying. Our goal is to say, to show you what the truth is. So we gave a lot of pointers in terms of what the fact is and what is actually going on from a perspective of our understanding. And that actually did we did enough work to shift the vote to Donald Trump's case. And this was a massive shift, and this was the first time that has happened. Not because they knew everything that was going on, but they could understand that somewhere along the line, Democrat Party has gone completely anti-Hindu and Hindu-phobic. They understood that from our communication. Even when 2002 Godhra riots happened, all the Western media questioned India and Modi and painted him as the Hitler and etc. They still do it, but you remember, nobody asked how that was instigated. Nobody questioned how it was started. Nobody even dared to question, the Sabarmati Express issue, the train burning, Hindu carnage issue. It was just buried in the history.
What will be the basis of Hindu Rashtra? Because if the contemporary constitution is to be carried out, then what will be the difference in being or not being a Hindu Rashtra?
So thank you. That's a very good question. I was hoping somebody asked this question, because I am a staunch proponent of Hindu Rashtra, not because that fact that Hindu Rashtra is going to be only for Hindu. That's not what I'm proposing. India was supposed to be Hindu Rashtra from the get-go in 1947. I don't want to make it complicated. Because of that, it has to be made Hindu Rashtra. Second of all, as I said multiple times before, this is the only land left, final and last, for the Hindus of the world, even for the Indian Hindus. We would like that land left for the Hindus. Christians have 130 countries, Jews have one country, Buddhists have 10 countries, the Muslims have 57 countries. I don't see a Hindu country. And I'm not ashamed of asking for a Hindu country at this point of time, given the fact that everybody has their own. So leave us alone, leave the Hindus alone, let them have their land. Nobody should be dictating them how to live. Now, the one critical question comes is, what would happen to the Christians and Muslims? They have lived there happily and peacefully for all these years. Nobody is going to take them away. They can live, but at the end of the day, they have to understand what the land is, or what the land's civilizational values are. The conversion law has to be carved out. You can't do, what the new prophets of Punjabs are doing. That cannot happen anymore. Even if you are a Hindu Rashtra, no Hindu are till today have said that Muslims can't stay over there. No, we are Hindus are basically secular people. They are very hearted, and they're actually accepting of all religions because of the ideology that we bring with us. Because Hindus actually believe that every religion takes you to moksha. whether those religions believe in the same ideology or not. But in Hindus actually believe that Jato Mat Tato Pot. There is this talk in, there's something that in Bengali they say, they you have enough, enough thought process or enough people, that many paths will be there. But we are not against any paths. Whatever you think is fine, but you don't have the opportunity to literally come and say that your religion is the final and last, and your religion is the truest religion. Hindus have 33 million gods and etc., and they don't have the right to live. That's not the land's civilization. And in order to save the civilizational value, you have to agree to that. You have to respect the land's culture and tradition and the heritage. Now we see, now a lot of things are coming out with scholars like Vikram Sampath, and wonderful orators like J Sai Deepak, etc., or Anand Ranganathan. I see that all this time, and then lot more I am learning from you, that what gems of an information they actually hid from us. And if these information now starts to come and taught in the school books, in 10 years, you will have a generation who will understand. It might not be ready completely, but at least you will have a generation who will understand, to take pride in the culture, to take pride in the language, to take pride in what we had in the past. We were talking about narrative building. I mean, your channel is one. I see, I am just an individual, right? I try to talk, I try to communicate through social media, I try to write about certain issues that is important for me. That's my method. Now if somebody wants to publish certain opinion and etc., but I know Times of India is not going to publish mine. I know Sunday Guardian might not publish my articles. You see, it's a very 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 controversial subjects. So to me, we just have to create our own. I've created my own. Whether 2% sees or 10% sees, that really doesn't matter at the end of the day. So I guess as a community, if we come together and put our in efforts and energy in broader scale, I'm sure we will make a lot of progress. But my request to the Hindus of India today, if you are not able to see with the tools we have in our hand today, I'm not talking about 10 years ago, we didn't have social media in this scale 10 years ago. Today you have one platform. My platform is Twitter. No other platform gives you the opportunity. Facebook tries to stop, Instagram tries to stop, TikTok will try to stop. So this Twitter is the only platform where at least some views will be there, some communication can happen. Whether it is in a large scale or not, we'll see. But we have something in our hand. Let's use what we have. That's all I say. I mean, we don't have everything, but we can write, we can speak, we can communicate, we can do book reading, we can do go to school colleges and talk about our history. I think if we do little bit of whatever we just said, I think we can make a difference. And this is happening too, because I didn't know all of these things when I was growing up in India. Nobody told me all these things. So I guess in general, what I'm saying is that changing the secular Hindus' minds are going to be extremely difficult task. But we're not going to have a Washington Post. We're not going to have a New York Times. We're not going to have a Reuters. But we can still have something which has 100,000 followers. We can still have something which is maybe 500,000 followers. So we can do something. A little bit is better than nothing. We start somewhere, wherever we start.
So true, ma'am. You have raised some very pertinent questions, and I hope this will become a talking point among the Hindus and we start working towards the solutions. Thank you for your time, ma'am. It was lovely having you on Sangam Talks.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure, my honor.